Hey everybody, welcome back. Thank you for joining the Rab family. You're watching Breaking Point on Real America's Voice News, covering the White House last week on July 4th for the bill signing and the B-2 flyovers. Really an historic day in D.C., and I love the energy that D.C. has these days. I've been going down there for about 47 years. I haven't seen it like this in a really, really long time, so it's kind of encouraging. They just got to address the crime problem down there. A staffer was killed the other day, a congressional staffer, or the other week. So they really got to work on that. But I want to bring our next guest in here, and following RFK Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again initiatives to phase out synthetic food dyes and other, and ask major food manufacturers to voluntarily eliminate these things from the food supply. We have Dr. Ken Gray with us, a holistic physician and food therapy expert and co-founder of Vel Health. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Man, it's great to be here with you, Mr. Zier. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. So much to talk about, so many issues out there. And one of them is the health of our children. And I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I wasn't allowed to have junk food in the house, maybe a little, a couple of devil dogs, What's the difference between our diets today and, say, 50 years ago?
Oof. Well, what's the difference between our diets and what's the difference between us, right? When you look back, being raised by stronger individuals most of the time, and having, stronger genetics, we fast forward, we've come through the microwave generation. We've come through the fast food. Here's a can, open that up, heat that up on the stove. Here's a microwave dinner. And I think that's taken a toll. A lot of things have taken a toll on our abilities to bounce back from, what used to be just basic little things, little cold here and there, little dysfunctional digestion. Things have gotten a lot worse. So I would say there's a combination of issues that we're looking at now is not only are we trying to become better, but we're trying to eat better because food over the last 50 years has changed. We're also respecting how food affects our health and well-being. I think we're seeing part of those growing pains with this shift in the food dyes, which I believe you wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get to that, maybe 30 seconds, are microwaves dangerous?
I won't go that far. I mean, it's not a preferred approach in my home.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about, for instance, you weren't allowed to eat too much junk food. Neither was I. And I think that's a testimony to our parenting, right? So when you look at the technology of the microwave, I wouldn't recommend it as a regular way to heat up your food. I like putting stuff in the stove or in the oven.
Yeah.
Just basic adding heat rather than, making the molecules in the water and all this stuff jump around and dealing with, the side effects of that.
Artificial dyes linked to behavioral changes in kids, inflammation, chronic conditions. How dangerous are they?
I think there's a real danger. And I'm going to say this not as a physician or an expert or anything, but I'm going to say this as a parent. I'll tell you a quick story, real quick. I have a daughter that's now about to be 18. And when she was in daycare, we thought she had contracted hand, foot, mouth disease, which generally, kids can get. It happens, and you're you're dealing with that for a week, right? Well, these symptoms and these rashes and her general disposition went on for way more than that, and so her mother and I, we just tried to figure out all sorts of different ways to deal with this, and we were scared as parents. It doesn't matter if you're a physician, whatever expert you are, when it's your child, you're helpless. You feel hopeless, and you want to do everything you can to fix that issue because you're coming from a parenting perspective. So we did a lot of trial and error. We tried different things. We even took her out of the daycare. Don't you know, it turned out to be that whenever we put her back in, one of the snacks we used to give, like most parents, which we thought was healthy, I'm not going to go with the brand, but I will say they look like fish, right? They were a fish snack. And this fish snack had a dye in it that we learned that she was very allergic to. And that same dye was also in ketchup. That same dye was also in anything that
Mm.
used red. And so once we stopped feeding her foods with that, she never had those problems again. Now, she was the kid that had to have mustard instead of ketchup. She did natural snacks. We looked at the ingredients. From that point on, we realized there was a real issue in food, and we had to, we had to just respect it. Um, Here we are.
Sure. I know that the Mars brands, which is one of the biggest candy makers in the world, they're refusing to move dyes out of their candy products, saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
we've been using these things forever." Um,
Yeah.
what do you think that ultimately the states may act on this if the federal government can't? What do you think?
I can't speak to what states will do. I'm not into politics. I'm a healer, and I will
Yeah.
say this, watching the trends, which is what we can do as citizens, you and I, we can see that more and more people are looking at ways that we can do better for ourselves and our families. And that means what are we going to spend our hard-earned money on as Americans, right? Now, when it comes to going to the supermarket, I know those aisles are looking a lot more natural, a lot more less preservatives, a lot more less dyes and all of those sort of things. So at some point, those companies that do not get on this, movement of change are going to be the minority, and the majority are going to be the companies that are respecting the need for healthier, less processed, less additives, less toxic food. Because that's inevitably what we're talking about. We're talking about removing toxins from food,
Do you think?
unnecessary.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go finish.
Yeah, unnecessary toxins. There's no necessary toxins, but these are definitely unnecessary because what are we doing when we are a company saying this is what we have done for years, and it's coming from generations of, well, we've got to sell it. It's got to look brighter. They're going to respond to blue. They're going to respond to this color. What are we saying? We're saying now that are people that, shallow, that they're going to put the color and the attractiveness of food before the actual health and well-being of their bodies? That's the question we're asking.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. We only have a minute left. I wish I can get into autism and stuff with you. I
Mhm.
think the spectrum's been broadened, so there are more diagnoses, not just because it's more autism, but it's because they've really defined it better,
Sure.
difference. But there also may be an increase. In less than a minute, is there a link between diet and autism at all?
There's a link between diet and the foods we consume in every disease, not just autism.
Wow.
So we're just not sure about it from a scientific perspective on where that link is, but we're learning that, the body holistically needs good nutrients or else it's going to suffer. And that means our nervous system, how our brain functions, how our organs function, all of it needs good nourishment or otherwise it's going to suffer.
Where can people follow you, Dr. Ken Gray?
Well, yeah, drkengray.com, velhealth.com. It's a wonderful app. It gives you a lot of alternatives, a lot of wonderful suggestions for food for free. It's part of the new need for us to be able to self-manage and be aware and also integrate holistic foods, diet, fitness. Everything from acupuncture has become more popular and how to treat naturally. But we're learning these things, right? We're all learning together. We're sharing together. And I think the
All
companies,
right.
the governments, we're all trying to get together on this.
Always an education. I would love to have you back. Thank you, Dr. Ken Gray, for joining us.
Oh, you've been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And everybody, we'll be back with more. I want to thank Rav for giving me the opportunity to spend the 4th of July at our nation's White House on the South Lawn for the beautiful bill signing and the epic F-22, F-35, and B-2 flyovers. And I interviewed this Uber driver. Most of the Uber drivers around the country I spend time with, they're Trump supporters. Check this kid out from Ethiopia. He's right on the money. Where did you come from? Ethiopia. Yeah, a lot of Ethiopians in DC for many years. I remember going back 40 years.
This is like a big community here.
You had a lot of famine there and stuff, right? So, and then you had the Marxist communists come in, right? Colonel Mengistu and I remember Live Aid that the Soviets came in, I think, took all the food they raised.
Yeah, which was crazy. And then when that was happening, I guess the prime minister or something had like a birthday for his dog. That's crazy, right? Yeah.
You know, the whole thing is, you know, there's millions of people who are online legally to come in the United States. And, you know, the Democrats just opened the floodgates to change the census so they can add more congressional seats. And they just flooded the country for 4 years, you know.
For sure.
And it's not fair to them.
No, it's not, because they're coming here. It's going to mess up their life. You know, they stopped their life to come here. They thought they could have came like normally and then just went about their life.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case, you know. And on top of that, the assassination was very crazy. They were trying to get rid of this man. I mean,
Yeah, twice.
it's just crazy. And then his comeback story is nothing like I've seen. It's like something that should be on the street books, honestly. How is it legal that somebody can have those type of views and still be good in a capitalist?
It's New York City. They do whatever they want.
No, I'm just thinking, shouldn't that be illegal though? It's like when you're in a capitalist country that is following a capitalist system, you want to bring a whole, like, you know, different view and impose it. I don't know how there isn't like a law somewhere.
Well, it's a free country and it's the price we pay. Oh, it's great socialism until you run out of other people's money.
Definitely.
You can spend all the money you want as long as it's not yours, right?
Or until the people paying leaves, the people that are paying the tax start leaving your state.
Thanks for watching Breaking Point on Real America's Voice News.